eyes is the gateway of the soul. It represents intelligence, vigilance, and truth. Also judgment and authority. It is such an important part of the anatomy of the human body. I am going to show you how to understand the eye and the principles thereof. Let's take a ruler and from the corner to the corner of the eye, draw a straight line. Now, this is when the person is facing us. It's not when it's on an angle. So if we draw the line there, and we also draw a line in between the two eyes at the bottom, just to make sure that we understand the proportions, because we need to prove that one eye will fit into the center of the eye. So 5 centimeters, 5 centimeters, so the eye distance between the two eyes should also be 5 centimeters. When we measure the orbital rim, which is the skull, the eye fits into the skull. So let's draw the line around so that you can understand how this eye actually fits in. You can take your hand and actually feel your orbital rim and understand that if we place the eye right in the center, it makes sense. So I am dividing the orbital rim into 4 proportions, and inside that you will also find the eyeball. So the eyeball will sit inside the orbital rim, and that again is, even if you turn your face, it will still stay at the same place. Your pupil will move. So I just zoom this in a little bit, and seeing that we can't really see the pencil, I'm going to take a darker ink pen and just draw this all around so that you can understand what I'm saying. So can you see the white ball of the eye? That will actually fit into that. So that should be center, and then the pupil should actually be right in the center of that square there. For this example, you'll see that it's a little bit, because she's looking down, a little bit out. Now, that area there is just below the line. And if I'm going to do a quick drawing just to show you what I mean. So I did a horizontal line, drop the tear duct area down, and the corner of the eye will actually cross on the horizontal line. I repeat, that is if the subject matter faces us. So the pupil, no, the retina of the eye actually sits right over the eyelid. Okay, and then if you take that quarter, you will determine where the pupil of the eye is. So if we don't do that, and the lid is higher than the retina of the eye, then the person looks scared. So the lid actually goes over the top part of the retina of your eye. And that gives us softness, and the shape of the lid depends on person to person. It's not always the same. The older we get, the smaller that area will be. To come back to the orbital rim, the eyebrows lies on top of that. So it actually touches the orbital rim. So if that's your orbital rim, your eyebrows will fit directly on top of that. That gives us the area above the eye, between the eye and the eyebrow, but it still fits onto the orbital rim. Now that line at the bottom actually sinks into the orbital rim, and then that gives us that fold. Doesn't matter if it's a baby. Even if it's a baby, you still see that line. And when we paint it, we must be very careful, because if we enhance that too much, it actually looks like a very old person. But you can't go without it. It needs to be there. Then we look at I call it the eyeliner line. Normally artists forget about that, And then there's just something wrong with the eye because it's so easy not to paint that or to just leave that out. The lashes is a different story. If you make the lashes wrong, it will look like a Barbie doll, and this is not what we want. So the lashes actually underlines the success of your drawing. Use a flick motion so that we make sure that it is a very thin line at the top, at the end. So I like to do a flick motion and give it a friend. So meaning at the bottom, I'll do a double line. At the bottom, a double line and flick it and flick it. You can then fill it in between, but make sure that you don't draw a solid line. You see that dark area there? That is because there's a lot of lashes of this subject matter. That actually gives you the shadow that falls into the eye. So if you draw the line, flick it and give it a friend. We need that area to be thin. Flick it, give it an end. Give it a thin end, we need that. Don't just take your pen and draw the line. That's wrong. Be very careful when you do the lashes. All the work that you've put into your eye, you don't want to mess it up with either too many lashes or wrong lashes. The eyebrows is also a kind of a flick emotion. Use the length of the lashes. Men differs from women. Men has got more bushy lashes, and yeah, it's not as groomed as a girl. If we look at this lady's eyes, it's a little bit more groomed. So just fill in your area. There's no reason why I still work with the ink pen, but just to give you the explanation, more or less, on how that works. So bring it around, stay in the direction of how the hair grows. At the top, it's a little bit thinner. Bring this all around and fill in your lashes, eyebrows. Just to show you the difference between hair. If we take long hair, we will go into the direction and the length of the hair, right? If we do a beard, we look at the shape and the length of the hair, or a stipple beard. So just draw the hair. This is a different lesson on its own. Now, coming back to the brows, just flick, 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 and build it up as you go. There's many ways to transfer your subject matter to your canvas. This is a very quick demonstration. I've set the video very quick just to show you, just to touch on the ground on what a grid does and how perfect you can draw with a grid. Not necessarily using graphite paper and copy paper and that type of thing. Just there's another video where I explain this more in detail. Very, very nice grid. You don't have to think of mathematics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You just start like I showed you, and then I hold my finger where I actually draw. Just take time, draw your subject matter as close as you can. Surely we use artist license, but artist license is something that you can get away with if your drawing is not 100%. When we do faces and human anatomy, it should be very, very accurate. Re-measure, re-look at it. Even if you have to turn your page upside down, make sure that you spend time with your drawing, because when you start with your shading and you've made a mistake and it's wrong, then you have to erase everything, and then your shading is gone. And as you get better, your grid lines will get less and less. When we look at drawing material, I've used a mechanical pencil B. I've used an extra hard pit oil pencil of Faber-Castell, a Schwarzkopf black pencil, a polychroma, and a Faber-Castell fine point fine liner, together with a knead eraser and an ordinary eraser. Also a mechanical electric eraser. So let's start off with the pupil of the eye. We are going to start with the dark areas first. I am using the Swatch Black Faber-Castell Black Polychroma pencil and pick up all the dark tonal values of the eye. Fast forwarded this video because drawing an eye takes hours. It's not just sitting down and think you can do it as quick as this video is. So also looking at the inside of the eye, make sure that all the lines go to the center point of the pupil. I hold my finger again to where I want to draw. Add only the dark areas. The light areas will pop out the moment we go dark. Without dark, there's no light. Keep the white of the eye. Make sure that you don't go over that. Lighten it a little bit. Let's start on the side of the eye. There's a lot of shadows there, and there is a lot of layers that went onto that area. Using a paper stump, just to blend it out a little bit. Be careful with a paper stump. It doesn't do all your work. You've got to make sure that you understand the paper stump and not just make your work messy. I considered powdered charcoal or graphite charcoal for the background, the skin tone. There is another video that I would like you to visit. It's called To Powder or Not. I've decided to use the charcoal powder, which is a very, very soft tone, and it does go into the texture of the paper, but it's not as dark, so I can control it very nicely. Take a very dry, clean brush and just work those areas in. Be careful that you don't make a mess or if your hands are wet or anything on your paper, because that will leave marks which you might find difficult to remove as well. Just brush everything out. Keep on looking at your subject matter. Look at the directions. Then I am taking the pit oil base Faber-Castell pencil. It's extra hard. Don't want to go so dark with that. For the very dark area, I will use the black polychroma. Just laying in the color. It's layer over layer over layer. Change the direction of your pencil. Make sure that you fill the texture of the paper quite nicely. Always come back with your power blending stick. Work that in. Be careful with your blending stick. It's also called a lazy stick or a lazy tool. Don't use the lazy tool to lay in color. Even though your paper stump has got very dark graphite on already, perhaps, don't use that to draw. Just work. It's called a blending stump, not a drawing stump. You can see I'm working, and I keep my eye on the very dark areas, layer over layer, changing direction. And this is patience, guys. It's really patience. It looks easy, but it's a lot of hours. Now that we've done all the shading and the dark areas, we are going to start with the lashes. First of all, I am using the Polychroma black pencil just to lay in the, can I say, the composition of the lashes. Like I said previously, it is extremely important that you do not just start with your lashes and think that that is just going to save your eye. In fact, it's going to mess up your eye. So take your time, lay in your lashes according to the demonstration we did earlier. Look at the direction of where your lashes grow, what is strong lines, what are soft lines, and that will just finish your eye. So take your time using a soft pen, well, a black pencil, very softly. There you go. There I have done most of it. At the top, I'm happy with the layout of that. It's not all the lashes. And at the bottom, yet again, I follow the subject matter. At the bottom, hair doesn't grow naturally. It actually grows sometimes two hair in one hole. If you put your mascara on, you'll see that. And this is what we want to get this picture as natural as possible. Now that the bottom part is nearly finished, I'm going to change my pencil. I'm going to use, I'm thinking of a calligraphy pen, a 0.1, which will give me very thin lines. And I'm going to go over each and every of those lashes. So it will give me the direction, which I've already determined, and just make the lashes fuller. Exactly the same as the demonstration. Dark at the bottom, flick at the top. Be careful, this is not a process that you can erase, because if you erase your lashes because it's wrong, you're going to erase the eyelid and part of the actual dark areas, all the shadows and shadings and stuff that you did. Take your time. Very, very important process. You'll see as this emerges what difference it makes to the eye. So take your time and enjoy. You can only get better with practice, practice, practice. And remember, art is a process. So while watching my videos, if there's any questions, please, at the end, there's my email. Send me an email. I would love to hear from you. I'm going to fast forward the video because doing the lashes is a painstaking process. But let's not say pain, because art is fun. You will see that I also add some very fine detail in between the lashes and doing the bottom part, just going over with my ink pen. And I am going to take the blending stump, just refer back to my reference photos, revisit the dark areas, look at the light areas, use the electric eraser just to make sure that I capture the highlights in the eye. Keep the lights light and just sit back, look at your eye and decide when it's finished. Remember, art is a process. It's not something that you do in 2 minutes. I have taken about 18 hours to do this eye. We can really go back and add more detail in the skin, but I am happy with what I wanted to accomplish, is to show you the do's and don'ts of the eye.